It's not what happens to you. It's not what happens to you. It's how you respond. And that response will make the difference in your emotions, your mentality, and dare I say, your physical well-being. You see, the year was 2009. First day of school. My oldest son is already there. My youngest child, she is, 3 years old? Not ready for school yet. My middle child, he's excited for kindergarten. He's going up, he's got his knees on the back of a chair, going back and forth outside on our porch. My wife is tending to Eliza, our daughter, and he's rickety-rocketing closer and closer to the edge. And kaboom! Lands on the concrete patio, smashes his eye here. Has a bit of a cut, blood everywhere. It's kind of a mess. She takes him to the pediatrician, and the pediatrician said, listen, there's no major problems. It's an abrasion. No big deal, don't worry, you'll be fine. So off to kindergarten he goes. And, the class pictures weren't that great with the bandaged eye and sorts, but he was a trooper. 2 days later, he woke up and shared with both my wife and I that he just peed blood in the toilet. And we're like, oh boy. I said, that's not good. I said, that's got to be maybe a contusion somewhere on his inside organs or something. Really wasn't a major alarm. So we, called the doctor to set up an appointment at the hospital. At which point my 5-year-old son's like, no, I didn't pee blood. I'm all set. I'm okay. I didn't pee blood. Because now he's scared, right? So my wife takes him to the emergency, to the hospital. I meet her there this Friday afternoon. And it's not going well because he needed a blood sample to start the whole process. So he's irate, crying, and upset. And by the time we get him to the ultrasound to check out what that, what that issue is, he's irate. But they did the ultrasound. And the doctors and the ultrasound tech was matter of fact, since he's so irate, we're going to finish the rest of the process up at the city hospital, at Hasbro Hospital in Providence, Rhode Island. So he said, okay, we said, okay, fine. So we take the jaunt up there, and I say to my wife on the way up, I said, I'm not remotely nervous about this because he fell, and it's on the same side as when he fell. So it's obvious that it's some type of bruise or contusion. When he gets a CAT scan up at Hasbro City Hospital, the nurse, he asked me to come check out the video screen, the computer screen of his healthy kidney and his affected kidney. And, the healthy kidney was this size and the affected kidney was gigantic. And he's like, yeah. I said, oh, yeah, no, I see. I said, all right, so, can you play soccer tomorrow? And he said, well, listen, why don't we meet in the other room? And at that point, I knew things weren't good. We walked into a room, comfortable furniture, Kleenex, bright lights. I said, Betty, this isn't good. She's like, what are you talking about? And I just went through what I just said to you folks. She's like, really? I said, yeah, I don't think this is going to be good news. Sure enough, the doctor came in, and I said, so our son has cancer. He's like, whoa, slow down. I said, listen, I'm not going to flip out. I said, I just want to know what's happening. He's like, well, yes, he does. He has a cancerous tumor that we need to remove, and we're going to remove both the kidney and the tumor in the operation. And at that point, I was like just a blur. I was going nowhere. My wife probably the same. I just like upside down, like what has just happened? And lo and behold, a telltale sign of a Wilms tumor on your kidney is passing blood in your urine. Well, thanks be to God that he passed blood in his urine after that fall, which ruptured. It ruptured the tumor to send blood to his urine. Because if it didn't happen then, it could have been 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years down the road when we would have discovered this, and it could have spread to his lung, his bladder, and made it a whole lot worse. So in incidents such as him falling, we were very thankful about, even though it wasn't a great thing. The same goes for his cancer diagnosis, because it was a good prognosis because it was caught so early. So spending the weekend in the hospital and getting the operation and going through all that was traumatic for my son. You know, why are you doing this to me? I thought you loved me type thing. But what we have to know as humans is sometimes bad things happen to us that we feel is unjust, which builds us and makes us stronger and makes us better. And that's exactly what happened a month after his diagnosis. I discovered that I too had cancer. I found it early. It was testicular cancer. And my son JP, who's going through his cancer, he couldn't have been happier. Not because daddy's sick and that daddy has cancer, but dad's got the same thing I have. We can go through this together. And really, it wasn't together at all. I only had 2 doses of chemo. It really wasn't that big of a deal. He had 42 or something like that. But the point is, my wife, myself, we didn't choose to let this cancer rule our life. We chose to dictate how we're going to respond to the bad news. And that's exactly what we did. And my 5-year-old son is now a healthy 21-year-old in his senior year at college. Still driving us crazy, don't get me wrong, but we're blessed. And that's what all of us need to do, is recognize our blessings in spite of the pain, in spite of the sorrow, in spite of the frustration, is to find that silver lining, or that one thing that you say, well, I'm not going to focus on this negative. I'm going to focus on this positive. And that's what we did. And at some point you can learn how I coped with my mental illness. We'll talk about that another time. So in the meantime, be well, stay well. We'll talk to you soon.